Have you ever watched one of those viral cops get owned videos?
Today, to speak to a supervisor, I was unable to speak to one. I don't need one now, but
you can actually go inside the police station and speak to a supervisor right now.
Does that really work? These videos showcase dramatic face-offs between police and the public, but how much of that is entertainment and how much of it is truth? We're going to explore the practical, legal, and often misunderstood aspects of encounters with law enforcement when you get pulled over. Whether it's understanding the fine line between assertiveness and aggression, or navigating the unique cultural nuances of Southern courtesy, we've got you covered. In the social media world, sensationalism all too often clashes with hard legal realities. Let's start with one of the first issues people encounter during a traffic stop. It's dealing with the question, which is more likely a legal directive.
Driver's license and registration, please.
Are you required to hand that over? In North Carolina, as is the case in many states, the legal requirements for drivers during a traffic stop are pretty clear and specific. If you're driving a vehicle, you must possess a valid driver's license. This is a fundamental aspect of driving and largely comes from an overall public safety concern. The government has a legitimate state interest to make sure that all drivers on the road have met minimum criteria for driving skills and knowledge. We owe each other a duty of ordinary care in operating a vehicle, and in order to do that, it helps to know the different traffic laws. Possessing a valid license is an indicator of a basic understanding of the rules of the road, although some of us may wonder if that's the case with every driver we see out there on the roadways. The state also wants to make sure you can pass a vision test and that you understand what the road signs mean. Those are also part of obtaining a license in the first place and may be part of the renewal process over the years. It's kind of hard to argue against that general logic. To be clear, we're not taking sides on the political or cultural issues that sometimes intertwine with the driving laws. Our focus here is purely on informing people about the legal obligations and practical considerations for drivers, irrespective of the broader political or societal debates. An increasingly important aspect to acknowledge in the realm of driver's licensing in North Carolina is the Real ID law. Is a Real ID license required to drive in North Carolina? The answer is no. But beginning May 7, 2025, federal agencies will start enforcing the Real ID Act, which requires a Real ID, a United States passport, or another federally approved form of identification to board commercial airline flights and to enter secure federal buildings. The North Carolina Real ID is a Real ID Act compliant driver's license that is just like a traditional license or ID, but has a star on the top. Driver's licenses and IDs without a gold star are noted not for federal identification. Proving one's legal citizenship or lawful presence in the United States is a mandatory part of the process to obtain a Real ID compliant license. It's argued this initiative aligns with federal regulations aimed at enhancing the security of state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards because they impact travel and have safety implications throughout the United States. Think of September 11th. Adapting to the new laws like the Real ID, you do not need a Real ID driver's license or identification card to drive or vote in North Carolina. Our aim here is to provide clear, unbiased information about the different legal requirements to drive. Staying informed and compliant is a key for all drivers. To that end, police may also request you provide registration documentation during a traffic stop. All vehicles on the roadway must be properly registered, and under North Carolina law, it's mandatory that the vehicle is either insured or covered under some form of self-insurance plan. Police officers are therefore well within their rights to ask for your license, registration, and proof of insurance during a traffic stop. It's not just the possession of these documents that matters. How you present them during a traffic stop can be critical, especially if there's a potential for that stop to evolve into a DUI investigation. The way you handle this simple task can inadvertently become part of the evidence gathering process for law enforcement. For example, if you hand over the wrong documents, forget what materials the officer asked for, or are observed fumbling through your belongings, these actions may be interpreted as signs of impairment. The officer might note if you miss requested items, drop anything, or struggle to retrieve your license from your wallet. Such observations, while seemingly minor, can be construed as possible indicators of impairment and the basis of probable cause to arrest. This underscores the importance of knowing where your documents are and being able to access them easily and calmly. If you're stopped, try to keep your movements deliberate and organized. But simply, don't make sudden movements. If you need to get something out of a glove compartment or console, ask permission to do so. This not only helps in presenting yourself as sober, but also ensures that the interaction with law enforcement goes as smoothly as possible. It may even save your life. It's also worth noting that being unable to present these documents requested can lead to additional legal problems. Failure to provide a valid driver's license, up-to-date registration, or proof of insurance can result in a ticket, fine, and court costs, depending on the situation. Therefore, it's advisable for drivers to regularly check that you have all the necessary documents in your vehicle and that they're up to date. Keeping them in an easily accessible place can also reduce stress and fumbling during a stop. Remember, while these actions might seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, they play a vital role in the broader context of a DUI stop and your personal well-being. Your ability to efficiently and correctly respond to an officer's request for documents can significantly influence the officer's assessment of your condition and subsequently the outcome of the stop. As to the videos we see involving drivers demanding to know the basis of the stop before providing your license and registration, or requiring the officer to provide his or her name and badge number right off the bat, those type of demands are not consistent with North Carolina law. While this might seem like a straightforward way to assert your rights, it's important to consider both the pros and cons of such an action. On the positive side, requesting this information can serve as a form of accountability. It ensures you know exactly who you're dealing with, and it can provide a sense of security knowing that the officer's identity is on the record. This can be particularly useful if there are any disputes or complaints about the stop later on. That may also be appropriate if the vehicle that pulled you over is unmarked and the person who stopped you is not immediately recognizable as a law enforcement officer. However, there are downsides to consider. Requesting badge details immediately would likely be perceived by the officer as unnecessarily confrontational or uncooperative, potentially setting a tense tone for the rest of the interaction. I live in the South where courtesy is highly valued. Responding badge number and name to an officer's request for license and registration would be inferred as discourteous or aggressive, possibly escalating the situation. The key is to approach your encounter with law enforcement with calmness and a modicum of courtesy. If you decide to ask for the officer's badge number, do so in a polite and non-confrontational manner. Remember, the goal is to ensure a smooth and respectful interaction, not to challenge the officer's authority or be a jerk. Similarly, requesting the presence of a supervisor during a traffic stop in North Carolina is a decision that should be approached with careful consideration. While it's likely legal to request a supervisor, it's important to understand how this request might be perceived and the potential risk it carries. Police aren't necessarily always required to call for a supervisor under North Carolina law. Local jurisdictions may have their own policy or policies on that. So it's important to realize this may very well be a request that law enforcement are allowed to ignore in their discretion. Generally, asking for a supervisor is not a routine part of a traffic stop, and doing so right from the outset can be seen as confrontational or indicative of a lack of cooperation. In most situations, the need to escalate to a supervisor is rare. It's essential to recognize that such a request can come off as offensive to the officer involved, potentially escalating the situation rather than alleviating it and getting you down the road. This is particularly true if there's been no clear indication of misconduct or inappropriate behavior by the officer. The perception of rudeness or aggression can complicate the interaction here in the South, where politeness is going to be expected. However, there are circumstances where requesting a supervisor might be appropriate if not necessary. If you genuinely feel that the officer's behavior is inappropriate or that your rights are being infringed upon, asking for a supervisor can be a valid course of action. In such cases, it's crucial to make the request politely and calmly, explaining your concerns without aggression or confrontation. Remember that many police interactions are now recorded on video, providing an objective record of the stop. This reduces the need for immediate supervisor involvement in many cases. Asking for every officer's badge number or name can be unnecessary and may be perceived as aggressive or rude, especially if there's no clear reason for such a request. There you have it, answers to your questions about the reality of traffic stops versus what you see on social media. We hope this serves as a comprehensive guide to navigating traffic stops and law enforcement encounters in North Carolina. From understanding your rights to managing your documents and your demeanor, these insights are aimed at helping you handle these situations with knowledge and composure. Whether it's adapting to new laws like the Real ID or knowing how to assert your rights without being confrontational, staying informed and prepared is a good idea. Remember, the world of law enforcement and legal obligations can be complex, but with the right information and approach, you can navigate it confidently and responsibly. We hope this discussion has been enlightening and empowering to you. It's all about striking a balance between asserting your rights and maintaining respect and courtesy, especially in the nuanced cultural context of the South. If you found found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content like this. Your support helps us continue to bring valuable information and guidance on legal matters that affect everyday lives. So hit the like button, share this video with your friends and family, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Thanks for watching, and if you find yourself in trouble with the law, lawyer up.